Well, hey there, Knotty friends. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, hi, my name is Chris, or you can call me Knotty Bear. I'm an amigurumi designer, crocheter, and just silly crafty guy here on YouTube, and I post new videos every single week, so if any of that sounds good to you, be sure to stick around. But this week, we have a yarn review. I'm very excited for this one. We are going to be looking at 4 of HOBBII's new Halloween yarns that they just added to their collection. And if you know me, you know I love Halloween and everything about it, including yarns. So I'm super excited to take a look at these. I can't wait to jump into it. Hopefully that sounds good to all of you. Grab a crafty project and a good beverage, and let's get into it. Alright, so real quick, let's take a moment to talk about HOBBII and these yarns. If you don't know what HOBBII is, they are an online seller of all things yarn, crochet, and knitting. Now, they also have physical locations, I believe, in Denmark and some other places in Europe. However, if you're like me, you live in North America, then you'll probably be purchasing it online like I do. They have a full collection of Halloween yarns that come out around this time. It's currently mid-July and they just came out. And there are some that are reoccurring, which we're not going to be talking about today in this video because they've been out for a long time now and many of you will have seen them. However, this year they launched 4 new ones, and those are the ones that I went ahead and purchased. Now, full disclosure, I went and paid my own money for this. This is not sponsored in any way. I am an affiliate of theirs. If you do end up buying one of these yarns or something on the website using the link, I do get a little bit of that back, so thank you so much for helping the channel. But I'm so excited to talk about these yarns and show them to you. So let's go through each one and see what HOBBII has to say about each of them. All right, so I'm going to be reading off my screen here off the HOBBII website for each one. The first new yarn that they have added to their collection is the Friends Ribbon Print Halloween yarn. If you don't know HOBBII, Friends just means that the colors all coordinate throughout all the yarns that have friends in them. So if you see Friends Cotton, for example, the colors should be similar. So if you're using them in different projects and things, they kind of have a balance to them. So that's all that means. There's magic in the air and yarn in the cauldron when Friends Ribbon Print Halloween invites you in for some Halloween fun with its playful stripes and colorful stitches. This super bulky ribbon yarn is like its pal, Friends Ribbon Print, made of 100% cotton with a flat tubular structure. It's soft, stretchy, and durable. This special printed version conjures up colorful stripes, and in this Halloween version, you get classic Halloween colors reminiscent of pumpkins, magic, and witchcraft. The colors match our beloved Friends universe, like I just said, but please keep in mind that the dyeing techniques used for 2 products are very different, leading to a slight difference in clarity of the colors. Let's take a quick look at the specs of this yarn. So like I said, it is a Friends 100% cotton yarn. The weight is 7 ounces or 200 grams. The length is 109 yards or 100 meters. The yarn weight is super bulky. The recommended needles are 10 millimeters or 15. The knitting gauge is 10 stitches by 13 rows equals 4 inches or 10 centimeters. The recommended crochet hook is 12 millimeters, which is a really large hook. Crochet gauge is 7 stitches by 9 rows equals 4 inches or 10 centimeters. And the care instructions are machine wash at 30 Celsius or 86 Fahrenheit. Do not tumble dry and lay flat to dry. So they have 3 colors available, you can see in this photo here. All of them are really cute. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I've actually never used a ribbon yarn before. It always reminded me of like shoelace, and I've never been 100% sure what to use it for. I've seen people use it for like structural things like bags or some home decor and things like that, things that need to be really sturdy. It almost gives me the vibes of like a mat or something, but they have some really fun colors here. Now, as much as I would love to just go on a little shopping spree and buy all these different colors, I don't have that kind of money. I don't know about you. However, I do want to get some of this. So we're going to just pick out one color. And I ended up going with color number 3, which I believe is called Witch's Cauldron, which is an absolutely great name. You can see it here in person. It is super cute, super nostalgic, very like classic Halloween. And right off the bat, just like my initial thoughts about it, very soft. I love the squishiness to it. The colors are fun. So I'm very excited to get into this. So that is the first Halloween yarn. Let's check out the other ones. All right, so the next yarn we have up is called Tea Time Halloween. This comes in a large cake, and HOBBII.com describes it as the creepy vibes are steeping in the teapot. And spines are tingling when Tea Time Halloween brews itself into your stitches. I don't know why reading these makes me giggle. They're kind of cheesy, but also a lot of fun. This cake is 100% acrylic, honey. It is not for the faint of heart. It is tea time. We're spilling the tea. Because this Halloween version of our popular Tea Time will have you hooked from the first stitch. Like Tea Time, the thickness of Tea Time Halloween varies slightly, giving it a charming texture and adding a surprising element to your project. This Tea Time Halloween colors are inspired by mystical witch's brew and magical elixirs, and each hides a color palette that you would only find in a witch's cauldron at midnight. So let's talk about some specs for this yarn as well. Again, it is 100% acrylic. The weight is 7 ounces or 200 grams. The length is 634 yards or 580 meters. So you get a lot of yarn here. The yarn weight is a medium. The recommended needles are 7 or 4.5 millimeter. The knitting gauge, 19 stitches by 27 rows equals 4 inches or 10 centimeters. The recommended crochet hook is an I or a 9, 5.5 millimeters, which is one of my favorite crochet hook sizes. The crochet gauge is 15 stitches by 19 rows equals 4 inches or 10 centimeters. And the care instructions are hand wash only, cycle at 86 Fahrenheit or 30 Celsius, do not tumble dry, dry flat. So there are a total of 5 colors to pick from here, and I personally really enjoyed number 2, which is called Scream. It's kind of a little bit of orange, a little bit of green. I thought that was a lot of fun. I also really enjoyed number 4, which is called Witch's Love. It's a little bit different, lots of pinks and purples. And then the last one, which was my favorite and the one I ended up getting, is called Snake Poison. It's number 5. Here it is, and I think that's just so much fun. It looks really cool. I'm excited to use this. I don't know what I'm gonna make out of it, but it looks beautiful. So I can't wait to try this out. Next up, we have a yarn called Scary Sock Wool, and HOBBII describes it as, are you brave enough to craft with scary sock wool? This spooky yarn isn't for the faint of heart. Spun from 75% superwash wool and 25% polyamide, this yarn is durable and warm enough for those dark fall days and Halloween coziness. Scary Sock Wool offers colors that ooze Halloween and spookily cozy atmosphere, making your projects look as if they were brewed straight from a witch's cauldron. Definitely a theme here of witches' cauldrons. All right, let's take a quick second to talk about the specs for this one. So again, it is 75% wool, 25% polyamide. A little bit nervous about that because wools are not traditionally my favorite to work with, but we will see. The weight is 3.5 ounces or 100 grams. The length is 448 yards or 410 meters. Yarn weight is super fine. Again, not a weight I love using. Recommended needles are 2.5 or 3 millimeter. Knitting gauge, 29 stitches by 39 rows equals 4 inches or 10 centimeters. Recommended crochet hook size is a G6 or 4 millimeter, and the crochet gauge is 22 stitches by 30 rows is 4 inches or 10 centimeters. And lastly, the care instructions, hand wash only, cycle at 86 Fahrenheit, 30 Celsius, the same as I think all these have been. Do not tumble dry and dry flat. So as you can see here, we also have 5 colorways for this as well. Very similar to what we've been seeing, a lot of orange and green, and then orange, green, and then pink and purples, which I'm totally fine with. Those are some classic Halloween colors. Now, since with the other 2 yarns, I kind of went more green and orange, with this one, I wanted to switch it up and I went with number 5, which is called Witch in Love, and it is full of purples and pinks. I'll just show it to you here while it's sitting next to me. So you can see there's black and white, but there's also a lot of pinks and purples and things like that. So I think this is super cute, but I'm probably the most nervous to use this one. It's a wool, it's a lightweight yarn. All those things kind of scare me, and not in the Halloween way that's intended, but I'm excited to give it a shot. Next up is our last yarn of the video, and is called Candy Cake Halloween, and HOBBII describes it again as throw yourself into a creative witch's brew. There's that witch's brew again. Color of imagination with Candy Cake Halloween, a limited edition yarn so bewitching that it can only have been concocted in a witch's cauldron. Who is this witch? I would need to meet this yarny witch. She's doing a lot this year. This enchanting 100% acrylic yarn is soft, light, and durable, making it perfect for all kinds of projects from magical blankets and scarves to spooky hats and accessories. All right, so the specs on this one again are 100% acrylic. Weight is 5.29 ounces or 150 grams. The length is 590 yards or 450 meters. So again, a really large amount of yarn. The yarn weight is fine. That made it sound like I was judging it. It's fine. No, the yarn weight is fine. Recommended needles 4 or 3.5 millimeter. Knitting gauge 21 stitches by 30 rows equals 4 inches or 10 centimeters. Recommended crochet hook is 7 or 4.5 millimeter. Crochet gauge is 16 stitches by 20 rows equals 4 inches, 10 centimeters. And the care instructions are fairly simple. This says machine wash at 30 Celsius, 86 Fahrenheit. Do not tumble dry. All right, so this one comes in a total of 4 colorways, as you can see here, and they're all honestly pretty similar, except for the last one, which doesn't have any green. Instead, it has white. But for the most part, they were all kind of similar to me. I would have liked to see a little bit more variety in this. However, I went ahead and went with number 2, which is called Trick and Treat, just because it had like that classic Halloween vibe, kind of nostalgic with the orange and the purple and the green and gray. I would have liked to have seen black here. Now here is what I got, number 2, Trick and Treat, and it is really pretty. Again, I would have really liked to have seen this gray been replaced with black. Now, I know a lot of you don't like to use black yarn because it is hard to see your stitches. However, I think it would have really just made everything else pop. But if you are someone that is like, I don't touch black yarn, then this might be a good compromise for you. But I'm excited to work this up. I think this is like the most nostalgic out of all of them. All right, so now that we know the specifics of this yarn, let's get to the fun part, which is the actual crocheting. I'm so excited for this. I'm going to be doing a little swatch of each of these just so I can get the vibe and the feel of it, and then we'll be doing a review. Now, if this is your first ever Knotty Bear review, first off, thank you so much for watching. Definitely give me a thumbs up if you are enjoying it so far. But I keep my reviews fairly simple here. I have 3 categories. We have quality, value, and versatility. Pretty self-explanatory. I give it a 1 to 3 Knotty Bears, 1 being my least favorite, 3 being I love it. And then sometimes I do a little bonus category called Will It Ami, which just means will it make an amigurumi? So all that is pretty simple. So I'm going to be doing each one individually. We're going to be starting off with the first one, which is this Halloween Friends ribbon print, which I am very excited. Like I said, I've never used a ribbon yarn before and it feels super soft. I'm excited to see how that works up. So let's go ahead and make our swatch. I do want to say real quick that the recommended hook size for this is 12 millimeters. I do not have a 12 millimeter hook. However, the largest I do have is this 10 millimeter. So that's what I'm going to be using. It might affect it a little bit. Obviously, the stitches will be a little bit larger, but hopefully it still works up just as nice. All right, so we're back and I have some things to say about this yarn, but first let me just show you the swatch here. Really cute. And I just want to say, I really love the way this looks on screen and in person. The colors are super cute. I love that it's almost like speckling. I wasn't 100% sure how I'd feel about this. Now, I did have a tough time, especially in my chains. I did do foundation stitches. It's like a thing I've been switching to. I just recently learned of them, which is essentially where you skip the chain and you just straight up make single crochets. Search foundation stitches if you don't know what I'm talking about. There's lots of videos out there. However, I did struggle to crochet it. It could also be because I'm using a smaller hook than recommended. However, I either had this or like a 14, which I figured would just be too big. I'm not mad with the final look. I actually really enjoy it, but I did find it took a minute to kind of get in the swing of things while I was crocheting, especially at the beginning. It was like grabbing a lot. However, With that aside, I will say I kind of loved using this yarn. I thought once I got past that initial stage, I really enjoyed using it, and I love the like softness of it. It's not as hard as I thought it would be. It definitely has some really good structure. You wouldn't want to use this for like a pillow or something that's up against your face. But personally, I would make something like a bag out of this, like a tote or something, like a shopping bag. It's really super durable and super cute. I am a big fan of this yarn. I'm surprised I've never tried a ribbon yarn before. I've seen a lot of you talk about them and use them online. I've just never personally gotten one myself. I really like the stitch definition in this. I think it's super fun. It's just like a quirky stitch. And like I said before, I'm kind of obsessed with the way that it kind of like speckles throughout the piece. It doesn't look like a gradient changing through. Every stitch looks a little bit different. I think it's just kind of chaotic, but really fun. So I'm super excited about this yarn, but let's give it its review, starting off with quality, which I think I'm just going to go out and say right off the bat that this is getting a 3 out of 3 Knotty Bears. If you know what you're making specifically out of this, this is kind of perfect for certain things, very specific things. It's super durable, soft, the colors are beautiful, and once it's like worked up like this, it feels like it'd hold a lot of weight. Like I feel like you could make like a hammock out of this and it would hold a person no problem. Now this is 100% cotton, which I'm a big fan of, especially with it being so soft. Sometimes cottons can be really scratchy. That was not the case for this. Feeling here while it's flat, it's very soft. Once it's worked up here, it does have much more of a texture. It gets really hard. All right, so let's move on to value. Now, just a reminder, you get 109 yards or 100 meters out of the skein, which is a pretty decent amount of yarn. However, it's priced normally at 14 USD, which is around $19 per skein Canadian before taxes, which is quite a steep price, I think. Now, it is on sale for $10 USD, so it's about 30% off, I believe, around there. And that's what I purchased it for, which does help a little bit. However, this is kind of a slightly pricier yarn. I'm gonna go ahead and give this 1.5 Knotty Bears out of 3 for value, just because $20 for this skein seems like a lot of money. I do appreciate that the quality is good and you do get a fair bit amount of yarn for this. However, that still seems a little bit steep to me. Last up, we have versatility, and I honestly have a couple projects in mind for this yarn. There's some things that I would use it for that I wouldn't necessarily want to make out of other yarns. For example, like I said, a bag, especially if you want something really durable, this would be perfect and super cute. I also want to try maybe make it like a table runner or even like a welcome mat or something I think would be really good out of this. So for those reasons, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 3 Knotty Bears. I think it's just a really fun and unique yarn. My final thoughts on the Friends Ribbon Limited. I think this is a really neat yarn. If you have a specific project in mind, like a bag or a mat, like I said, and you like these Halloween classic colors, then I say go ahead and give it a shot. The only thing that's holding you back really is the cost. It is a little bit steep, but hopefully they keep these sales going so you can get it a little bit cheaper. But overall, I think this is a super fun yarn and I can't wait to use it again. It's getting warm. I took the hat off. I also realized I did not say will it ammy for this. I'm going to go ahead and say no. This is not the right yarn for amigurumi rather. These stitches leave really large holes, and even if you were to use a smaller crochet hook, I think you'd always have some holes in there just because of the shape of the yarn, and in general, it's just not a good yarn for amigurumi, so I'm going to say no. All right, so next up, we're going to be swatching the Tea Time Cake in Snake Poison, I believe it was. They recommend a 5.5 crochet hook, so I'm gonna be using my swing hook here, and let's go make our swatch. All right, so I just finished our swatch for the Halloween Tea Time. Here it is, and honestly, I absolutely love this color gradient. I am obsessed with it. I don't even need to wear this for Halloween. I would do this for other things as well. Those greens are so beautiful. As far as crocheting with it, I found it pretty standard. I didn't have any splitting issues. There was a little bit of shedding or haloing on there that my hook sometimes grabbed onto, but honestly, no more than it would with any other yarn. Also, for it being an acrylic yarn, it's really soft. I don't even think it's one of their premium acrylics, I don't believe, and it's super soft to the touch. So that's a really good thing. I would definitely happily make a project crocheting with this. So let's talk about our 3 categories here. So starting off with quality. Now, like I said, I really enjoyed using this yarn. It was super soft. If I didn't know it was 100% acrylic, I wouldn't have guessed it. And the colors I'm absolutely obsessed with. I love the gradients and the way they work together. The stitch definition is nice. It has a good drape to it. I would love to see how this washes up after I block it to see how the drape is. But overall, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 3 Knotty Bears for quality. All right, so let's talk about value for this yarn. Now, just a reminder, each cake has 634 yards or 580 meters, so you do get quite a bit of yarn out of this. Now, it is currently priced at 15 USD, which is roughly $21 Canadian before tax, which does seem like quite a bit of money. However, when you break down how much you're getting out of this, for example, I think it was 100 meters for the ribbon yarn, so you're getting almost 600 out of this cake, so you're getting a lot more yarn for your money. And because you get so much out of this, if you have a project in mind, like a cardigan or something, you might be able to get away with 1 or 2 of these, and you would have enough to do the whole project. Also, at the time of filming this, it is 33% off, so it is currently $10 USD, which makes it even more affordable. So for those reasons, I'm gonna give it a safe 2.5 Knotty Bears out of 3. Lastly, we have versatility, and this is a pretty bog standard acrylic yarn. I mean, it's actually a little bit better because it is softer. It does have that interesting changing of weights throughout it to kind of give it a little bit more texture, as they said. Now, I don't know if I super noticed that here. However, I adore this swatch, and there are a ton of projects I could see myself making out of this. I would definitely make a wearable out of this. It is pretty soft, and I think washing it and blocking it would only make it softer, but you can make a whole range of different things with this. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a 3 out of 3 Knotty Bears for versatility. And then of course we have Will It Ammy, and I'm going to go ahead and say yes for this. However, the changing weights throughout the yarn thread does worry me a little bit with that. I didn't notice it too much, like I said, in the swatch here or while I was working on it. It wasn't like a huge amount anyways, but that does kind of worry me. Your stitches would be bigger or thinner in some spots, which could lead to stuffing showing through. So I'm going to give it a safe yes. All right, moving on. Next up, we have the Scary Sock Wool, which is this one here. And this is definitely the one I'm the most nervous about because of the lightweight and the fact that it's wool. I can already tell just from touching it, it is a little bit, actually maybe a lot of it, scratchy. I am excited to see how the colorway works up in the swatch though, because I think those colors are really fun. I'm going to be using a 4mm crochet hook as it suggests. Now, I just want to give a quick shout out to one of you. This was sent to me by Susie in Seattle, I believe, and she heard me say in one of my previous videos how much I adore the Addi swing hooks. However, I could never find the maxi version, which are the ones with the larger or longer shaft rather. So just for example, this is my original one here, and the one on top is the one that she sent me. So you can see it's almost like a third longer, maybe a little bit more, and she wasn't using them. I just want to say thank you so much, Susie. Everyone claps for her in the comments. Definitely let her know that she's the MVP. She sent me a couple of these as well as a couple resin hooks as well, and I am obsessed now. I have to find these. I think I may have found a seller of them not far from me, so I'll have to be buying a 2.5mm one for sure because I use that hook all the time. But anyways, I just wanted to share with you because I finally got one and I absolutely love it. But anyways, let's get into our swatch. All right, let's talk about this yarn. I had quite a time working with this. Here is our finished swatch, and it's really hard. It does not want to cooperate. It definitely is begging to be blocked. Now, where do I start with this? Number one, I did not like crocheting with this. The feel of it mostly. Now, if you've worked with some raw feeling wools before, you know what I'm talking about. Some of you might just get through it because wool has some exciting properties. For me, it was like already chafing my fingers, and I wanted to put it down almost the moment I started. I had some threading issues. It was catching on itself. It does have kind of like a halo to it. You can see lots of little wisps and things for your crochet hook to hook onto. However, I persevered because I wanted to get all those colors in there. For me, once I got to all the colors and got to a point where I could see everything worked out, I gave up because honestly, I don't know that I was enjoying it. I don't know if it's about how fast the colors shift in some areas. It felt like you only got a couple stitches before they just switched out. I also really didn't enjoy this pale dusty rose. I don't know why that bothered me so much. I'm not entirely sure, but overall, I just really didn't enjoy using this yarn. Unfortunately, it just feels really scratchy. Now, maybe washing it or blocking it would help, but let's break it down into our categories. Starting off with quality. Now, I don't want to be too hard on this yarn because I know it is a wool and they have some really positive qualities like keeping you warm, but also allowing you to breathe and all that kind of stuff. The stitch definition isn't bad. It's not great either. I'm not a huge fan of the drape, I'm not gonna lie. I think blocking would probably help that, but it's not like amazing. I just really, like I said, hated the way it felt on my hands personally. I'm just gonna go ahead and give this 1 out of 3 Knotty Bears, unfortunately. But if you're someone who likes using wools and doesn't mind the little scratchiness to it, then this might be fine for you. Next up, we have value. Now, a reminder, you get 448 yards or 410 meters out of each skein, which is quite a bit of yarn. Now it is super fine. However, the current price is $9 USD, which is roughly $12 Canadian before tax, which isn't terrible. When you look at how much of this you get, I'm assuming you could make at least maybe 2 pairs of socks out of this. Honestly, let me know in the comments below. I've never crocheted a sock before. Now, like everything else I've been reviewing, it is on sale for 33% off, bringing it down to $6 USD, which is closer to $9 Canadian. So with all that in mind, it's actually a pretty good price. You get a decent amount of yarn and the cost isn't super expensive. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it 2.5 Knotty Bears. And lastly, of course, will it ami? I'm gonna go ahead and say no. Technically, you could make an amigurumi out of this, but because the weight is so fine, it would take forever even to make a little one, and because the yarn is scratchy and you're not getting any of the benefits of the wool, it just wouldn't make sense. All right, everyone, next up is the last yarn we're going to be doing in this review, and that is, of course, the Halloween candy cake yarn, which is this 100% acrylic cake yarn, which I actually really like the colors of. I'm excited to try it. First touch here, it feels very soft. Now, they recommend using a 4.5mm crochet hook. I actually don't have that. I'm just going to go ahead and use my 4mm Addi swing hook for this one as well, so let's go make our swatch. All right, so I just finished our swatch and here it is. It's kind of giving like my sexuality is spooky. It looks like a little like one of those flags, but super cute. Now, as you probably saw from the little video, I wanted to make sure that I got each of the colors in the swatch. However, the gradient is really long, so I ended up just like pulling out the extra just so I could get each of the colors in there because I didn't want to work up a giant long thing just to get all the colors. So this is what we ended up with, but it's totally fine for reviewing purposes. So let's break this down into our categories. Starting off with the quality of this yarn, again, it's 100% acrylic and it's super soft. Honestly, it is one of the softer acrylic yarns that I felt. HOBBII does a really good job at making their acrylic yarns for the most part. They are always super soft and the stitches are great, and I always pretty much enjoy using them. I will say there was something interesting about this, as specifically I found it in the gray portions where it almost felt like roving wool as opposed to actual thread spun together. Hopefully that makes sense to you. It wasn't necessarily an issue at all, it was just something I noticed. But once I got to the color portions, I found that happening less and less. As far as stitch definition goes, it's pretty nice. The stitches look really cute. There is a little bit of fuzzy haloing to it, but I kind of enjoy that. It's not a problem. It's super soft and there is a nice drape to it. I would say that if you blocked this or washed this, it would be even softer with an even nicer drape. I also found that this one has like my most nostalgic Halloween colors. This reminds me of like 90s Halloween for some reason, and I really enjoy that. I think this could make a really fun hexagon cardigan. It's very soft, it works up super fast, and the colors are fun. Ask me how my hat got back on. All right, next up we have value, and just a reminder, you get 590 yards or 450 meters out of this cake, and currently it is $13 US, which is roughly $18 Canadian before tax. Now this is an acrylic yarn, you do get quite a bit of it, but for $18 Canadian, it is a little steep on the value side. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this 1.5 Knotty Bears out of 3. Now I will say, as of filming this again, this is 30% off, so it's $9 USD. It's closer to maybe like $11 Canadian or 12, somewhere around there, which definitely helps, but I do think that there are some more value-based acrylic yarns that you could find for cheaper, so just keep that in mind. Last up, we have versatility, and much like the previous cake we did, the tea time one, there are a lot of projects I could see making out of this. The only thing I think that's holding it back is the blocky colors. I wasn't a huge fan of the color palette of this whole collection, to be honest. This was my favorite one, but seeing how it works up, I'm not in love with the way the colors are matching together. I specifically personally just don't enjoy the gray. I wish that was darker or even black, but maybe that's just me. It is an acrylic yarn, it's pretty standard, so there are a lot of things you can make with it. You can make some home goods, some wearables, and lots of things like that. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 2 out of 3 Knotty Bears. The only thing holding it back really are the kind of blocky colors. And then of course we have the Will It Ami. I'd say out of all these, this is probably the best one for amigurumi because there's no weight changing throughout it. It's an acrylic yarn, it's pretty standard and easy to use. Again, the only thing I'd say holding it back is the color changes because that could look kind of weird on an amigurumi. However, I will say for Halloween, sometimes things are a little bit more monster-like. So having some weird like blocky colors could add to the vibe. So overall, I'm gonna say yes, it will Ami. All right, everyone, those are all the yarns for today's review. I gotta say, I think my favorite one out of all of these was the Friends cotton ribbon, surprisingly. I definitely wanna make a couple different projects using this. I really loved the way the colors looked at the end and how sturdy the yarn was. I definitely wanna make like a good like grocery bag or something. Something that carries a lot of weight would be perfect for this yarn. And I think the colors and everything were just super fun. So that was definitely my favorite one. But with that said, I also really enjoyed the color of this, I believe it was called Snake Poison, of the Tea Time cake. I think that's my favorite color out of all these. I think that would make a really cool cardigan, so I'm excited to try that out as well. Unfortunately, not everything smelled like roses in the witch's cauldron. Some of them were a little bit more stinkers to me anyways. The biggest one being the sock wool. It just was not for me. It might be for you, and that's totally fine, but it just felt really itchy and scratchy, and the payoff wasn't worth it. Unfortunately, however, if you have any projects in mind for me, definitely leave them in the comments. Let me know what I can do with this yarn so it doesn't just sit around in my yarn stash. But that's it for today's video. If you are interested in getting any of these yarns or shopping on HOBBII, be sure to use the link down in my description. It is an affiliate link, so I get a little bit of a kickback and it helps support me and the channel, so thank you so much. Speaking of supporting the channel, a huge thank you to all of my patrons for supporting me. I could not do this without you, so thank you so much for being here. If you are interested in becoming a patron member and getting shop discounts and access to a free pattern library and the community Discord, definitely check out the link down below. But thank you everyone so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. But until then, stay naughty, friends. Bye. Do not tumble dry, lay fat to dry. All right, so let's take a quack magical blankets and scarves to Pookie.